So, you want to give a TED Talk. Actually, scratch that, you need to give a TED Talk. Let me answer a couple questions you might have about that process, including one that might be on your mind, like multimodality. So let's break down a couple things. First of all, you'll notice I'm not actually on a stage. However, I am replicating a couple key genre moves of a TED Talk. You can see most of me. My body is generally in the frame. Now, I am looking at the camera. However, if I wanted to act like I was on a stage and talk to my imaginary audience and engage them that way, I certainly could, right? It's all a rhetorical choice. Now, one key rhetorical choice is you might notice there's a screen behind me. Now, in a lot of TED Talks, they do this function that we've talked about in class, multimodality, right? And if you yourself want to achieve some multimodality in your TED Talk, you're more than capable of it with just a bit of a simple setup. Again, I have a TV behind me. Now, I'm fortunate enough to have access to a TV that I can utilize for the sake of this TED Talk throughout the filming process. Now, a monitor or a projector might also achieve the same thing. I have a TV in my home. However, if you wanted to replicate this idea, you might be able to find access to a TV in a library or on campus at KSU. That's up to you to look for that. But I do want to acknowledge that this is a very simple configuration. If you can tell, this is a laptop. It's my laptop plugged into the TV via HDMI cord, which means I'm pretty much just showing you a Google slideshow right now and calling it part of my TED Talk. So I can use multimodality in the way that we see a lot of TED Talkers do on an actual stage. Now again, I'm replicating a lot of the genre moves of a TED Talker, even though this isn't actually a TED Talk. It's a verbal and visual explanation of some things you might consider doing. Now, this being said, we want to do purposeful things, especially if we're utilizing multimodality. I want to emphasize this concept to you that you don't need to be particularly tech savvy to utilize these ideas. You don't have to be like this person here on the screen. Mind you, I've chosen an image of something that looks vaguely like a tech savvy person to convey this idea to you, because I'm paying attention to the subconscious ideas of my audience. So, throughout your TED Talk, make sure that if you're using multimodality, it serves a purpose. Actually, everything throughout your TED Talk should serve a purpose. Most importantly, the words you say, but also your body language, where you're standing throughout the talk. If you're looking around at an imaginary audience, why are you doing that? If you're using a clicker, why are you doing that? And of course, there's only so much that you can control. You might not be able to control the environment around you. Believe me, if I could choose the wall color, it probably wouldn't be that color. But I can control things like my outfit and what that subconsciously says to you. Now, I might want to convey this idea to you that I know what I'm talking about. Or perhaps I want to convey this idea that I am a used car salesman. Or a waiter at an Italian restaurant. Let's not pay too much attention to it. But I want you to pay attention to these things and utilize what you can, even if you don't feel like using multimodality because you're intimidated by this idea of using technology, because of limitations of your environment, or because you feel you have more to say in a verbal sense. That's perfectly fine, but do it purposefully. You will have to use a little bit of tech, pretty much just this right here. You do have to post it to YouTube. I do have to be able to see your TED Talk, and you have to be able to share it with other people. Now, the YouTube Creator Studio is fairly simplistic and easy to use, should be pretty intuitive. If you have questions, you can let me know, and I'll help you with the process. Now, this is a next week's concern, but I do want you to pay attention to multimodality in the formulation of your TED Talk as we're going throughout the scripting process. And also planning ahead, because you will need access to YouTube and you will need to film this. So think about, where are you going to find the space to film it? How are you going to do the filming setup? My filming setup, which is obviously behind the scenes, is very simple. I'm filming this on my iPhone. I'm just using my phone camera. It's that easy. I want to make this as accessible as possible to you as far as the assignment goes, so your phone camera is perfectly fine. I'm using a tripod and also a ring light because I have those things on hand. If you're a social media influencer and you have a ring light, feel free to use it. That's not why I have a ring light, mind you, but there are all sorts of reasons you might have some helpful technology or tools at your disposal to film this sort of thing. Now, that being said, I want to instill some confidence in you that it's pretty achievable, so hopefully this inspires and motivates you and answers some questions. But if you have any other questions, you're always welcome to bring them to me. I hope this explanation was helpful, and I'll see you at the end of your TED Talk.